These are Masterpiece Collection beads from John Bead. There's a whole line, and I love shaking them. It's like candy without the calories. I am going to show you today how we can use UV resin, use the label itself, and make a piece of jewelry. Now, these have 6 different beads. I call them more like focal or just more like statement beads, which I love. They're inspired by the piece of art. It's so much fun. Today we're going for a necklace, UV resin, super simple, super minimalist. I just absolutely love how this turned out. So let's get to it.
I am going to be lifting that label off and using it as the base for my resin-filled pendant. To do this, I'm going to use some Gooby on it. I'm just going to gently put a few drops in there and over it, and then let it soak for a second, put the cap back on so it doesn't keep leaking, and then just lift this right off. We're ready to go. Now you'll notice resin tape there. I originally thought I was going to need resin tape. I did not, so that does not get used. I just have a thin coat of UV resin here, and I also have that little silver pendant, and I'm just going to heat set this. It's just set on top of a piece of white paper, and once that is cured, I'm going to lift it. So basically, my resin is bonded to the pendant, but also to the paper, the label. I'm putting a very thin layer of resin on the back side of the sticker just to kind of give it some security, but also just thicken it up a bit, heat set that, and then back to the front. Now this time, multiple layers. I did about 5 layers to get to the domed height I like, because I like working with thin layers of UV resin. It cures better, faster, less chance for whoopsies. And you should probably wear gloves. I realized I haven't been doing resin work. I should have been wearing gloves, but just be careful not to handle it, not to touch it. So once you have done all that process and you continue to heat set with the UV light and it's all set and ready, as you can see here, super easy, super quick. Once you're happy with it all and you're ready to go, you can, if you have any edges that are rough, you can just use a little sandpaper and file it off. Otherwise, you're ready to design. Now, I've just designed a very simple asymmetrical necklace with some chain. I'm going to be using some soft flex beading wire here just to string my beads along the one side. So to do this, you use the beading wire, you pull it through whatever you're going through, in this case, the pendant. And then I'm going to be using a little called a crimp, little silver crimp that you put 2 sides of the wire through. Then you use crimp pliers to, well, crimp it so it holds those wires in the channels in place, and then you just go around a few times to secure it. Very simple, very easy, but very effective as well to hold your stringing material together for your beads. Now I'm just going to put my beads down here. I've added in some little silver spacer beads just because I like a little bit of metal between the beads, just kind of give it a breather. I've also got a few little bead caps here for my biggest bead just to kind of accent it a little more. So you're just sliding everybody on in the order you want. I am working on a beading mat. You don't have to, absolutely optional, depends on what you have available. And the other end. So the other end is going through the end of the chain and then back through the little crimp that I mentioned. And I put it through a couple of beads. I find it easier. I also find that what I like to do here is over tighten it, then snip my beading wire, then loosen it. It just works really well for me. It keeps the end of the beading wire tucked into the beads, and it lets me test here, like, do I have enough? Because you don't want it too loose, but you also don't want it too tight so that it is strained and can't flex with the curve of your neck or your wrist if it was a bracelet. And then again, which is the crimping pliers to trim off any excess. Now what I'm doing is I have divided the chain in half. In other words, I pulled it across. Okay, where would the halfway point be? Once I've determined that, I split it across, and I'm just going to use a little jump ring to put a lobster clasp on one side, and that will link to the other.
This is so much fun to make, and you know what? It would make a super cute purse charm or planner charm keychain too. I'll show you a different one of those mixes another day. For now, I just have to hope that my daughter does not steal this necklace from me, because she's gonna want it too. It's so cute, and they're very into more minimalist things as well. I just love how this turned out, and these beads are just so much fun. So much possibility. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you next time. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment or shoot me an email.